Yo, what's up boys and girls, it's Swolelax here, and I'm back at it again in the video, something a little bit different. Today we are once again going to be talking about Neo-Spacians. Now if you do or do not know, I went through 100 games of Neo-Spacians by doing the 100 Neos challenge. Essentially what I did is I built the Neo-Spacian deck that you guys recommended and played 100 straight games. And we played a variety of decks, we won a variety of games, and we lost a variety of games. But the important part is we had fun, and we actually learned something. I was taking notes practically the entire time of playing 100 straight games through, and I came across some things that may shock you, or you may not because you may already know these things, or because you and I agree on this issue. Today I'm going to be going over why nobody plays Neo-Spacians. Through my 100 games and through the trials and tribulations of Neos, I came across 4 glaring issues with this deck. Now don't worry, this is not going to be all negatives and it's not going to be all critiques. I'm actually going to be going over some things I do like about it and some of the things I do like about current and future Neos builds. However, I'm not going to be pulling any punches and I'm going to be as objective as possible with this, even though I am a huge fan of the Neo-Spacians. Though it may not sound like it, I actually love almost everything GX. I can confidently say that I'm a GX fanboy, and I want any future support for this deck and any support for any type of cards that Jaden would have played or will play in the future to be good and to have the deck's best interest at heart. But without further ado, let's just jump into it. So the first thing I want to get out of the way first and foremost is that this deck is inconsistent. I've talked about this at length in other videos, but the deck itself is just still way too inconsistent, even with the addition of certain cards to kind of help boost it in some way. Almost none of your fusion cards and fusion materials are searchable inside of this deck. Now this may just be a byproduct of the era in which it was created. However, if we have not gotten a searcher for these cards by now in the form of a spell card, then we probably won't be getting one anytime soon. But as of right now, we have almost no way of consistently gaining our materials to our hand or on the field. Granted, Contact Gate did come out recently, which somewhat works around these limitations. However, it does not completely fix the contact fusion mechanic. We'll get into that in just one moment, but for now I want to continue talking about the consistency. One of the most important things that makes the Elemental Hero deck really good, especially as a successful fusion deck, is that you're able to search its fusion materials super easily. Not only do you have cards like Emergency Call, which is a non-once per turn searching card, you have cards like Vision Hero Vion and Elemental Hero Blazeman that can search not only Polymerization and add it to your hand, but also can dump cards to the graveyard like Shadow Mist or Malicious to get extra summons, or to search heroes to your hand. These are staples inside of the hero deck that make it such a good, viable fusion deck. Even back in the day, cards like Stratos and Emergency Call were fantastic cards for getting your combos and plays started. Even transitioning into the modern hero build, you have things like Mass Change, which is searchable with cards like Elemental Hero Shadow Mist. So you can see there's a lot of ways that you can get your fusion combos and get your fusion plays off. However, in Neo-Spacians, there is not a consistent, reliable way to do this. Here you can have cards like Elemental Hero Prisma and even Cross Porter to help search and somewhat dump cards inside the graveyard, but it's still just not enough. This deck doesn't really want to play off the graveyard as much as it thinks it does. It feels like they designed Neo-Spacians to play off the graveyard heavily. Now the next thing I want to talk about is power. The Elemental Hero and Neo-Spacian archetypes aren't necessarily known for their, attack points. Most of them on average have roughly 2,400 to 2,600 attack points, which is fine, and for the time it was actually pretty good. But whereas the Elemental Hero and hero archetype in general got cards like Honest Neos to give it a necessary power boost, the Neo-Spacians never really did. Now while playing these 100 games of Neos, I did get asked if Honest Neos should have covered Neo-Spacians, and honestly I think it should have. There are 2 things that I think would fix Honest Neos on a quick side note. First things first, this card can be treated as Elemental Hero Neos in the hand or in the graveyard. Not in the field, I think that would kind of be its restriction that you could play off of. And second, that it could add 2,500 attack points to any Neo-Spacian or hero monster that you control. This would be huge, not only because it already covers the fusion cards that Neos has, but in addition to that, it also covers the Neo-Spacian monsters that you normal summon onto the field if you don't necessarily have plays to go into. For example, you take cards like Aqua Dolphin, which has 600 attack points. Let's say you're only able to slap this guy onto the field, you've already used that normal summon, you set a few cards, you don't necessarily have any other plays to go into, and you pass. Or if it's your second turn, you want to hit over a monster, and you have Honest Neos in hand. What you can do is you can discard Honest Neos, target your Neo-Spacian monster, and suddenly Aqua Dolphin goes from a 600 attack point monster to a 3,100 attack point monster. That is insane. Now, Honest Neos won't necessarily fix everything, but it would be a great power boost to the deck where I feel like it's lacking. The third thing I want to talk about with the Neo-Spacians is, of course, the giant red flag looming over every single Neo-Spacian fusion. And that's its awful awful effect that they get shuffled back into the extra deck at the end of the turn. Sure, you have cards like Contact Out, which somewhat get around this effect, but it's still just not enough. Sure, I get they were trying to restrict these cards, and sure, I get they were trying to do something a little bit new. Fundamentally flawed as it is, you can get around it with stuff like instant Neo-Space and the Neo-Space field spell. However, this will actually lead me to the fourth thing that I want to talk about with the Neo-Spacians and how to fix the Neo-Spacians and why nobody plays Neo-Spacians, is that these smaller monsters don't fuse with each other. With a deck and archetype so focused around contact fusion, these smaller Neo-Spacian monsters do absolutely nothing together. Newsflash, that's a problem. It would have been such a cooler and such more interesting design choice if we had cards like Neo-Spacian Aqua Dolphin and Grand Mole being able to fuse together, cards like Flare Scarab and even Glow Moss or even Dark Panther. The list goes on if they could fuse together with each other. Granted, these cards wouldn't be as powerful as the Neo-Space fusions. One, you can make them not bounce back to the extra deck at the end of the turn, and two, it would require much less hassle, much less setup, and in a way, you could even play the deck without Neos himself, making the deck and its build a lot more varied. For example, you could have cards like Flare Scarab and Dark Panther fuse together. Their fusion card could have like 1500 attack points. It can gain 500 attack and defense for each spell and trap on your opponent's side of the field. Once per turn, once per turn. If your opponent would activate a spell or trap card, you can destroy one of your own spells and trap cards that you control and negate and destroy that card. That may be a little bit too good, but that alone is a small change that makes the deck worth it. That's kind of the design philosophy and forward thinking that I want to see with the Neo-Spacian support going forward from Konami. The future of the Neo-Spacian archetype has kind of already started to leak out in the form of Contact Gate and Nebula Neos, which we'll be getting sometime soon. Now, we don't necessarily know a lot of details around Nebula Neos, other than that it draws cards, it negates effects, and it banishes things on the field. Those three things may seem pretty huge, though we don't know what limitations it may have. There are some speculations, some theories online, but I'm not necessarily going to go into great detail here until they are confirmed. However, Contact Gate is something that's supposed to help out the Neo-Spacian contact fusions. This card actually pairs really well with something like Elemental Hero Prisma. Let's say you normal summon Elemental Hero Prisma, you can send your Neos to the graveyard to make himself Elemental Hero Neos. Contact Gate allows you to banish 2 Neo-Spacian cards from your graveyard to summon 2 Neo-Spacians with different names from your deck. This card's actually pretty good and allows you to get a lot of different variations and plays depending on how your opponent set up their board. So in a way, it is kind of like the Elemental Hero fusion monsters in that you can pick and choose depending on the situation you are in. I like that a lot, and I think that is a great step forward. This card is not without its flaws. When a fusion monster is shuffled back into the deck, then you can special summon only one Neo-Spacian monster from the banished pile. So in a weird way, this card is not as good as Contact Out because Contact Out brings out Neos. And this card doesn't necessarily fix the problem that the deck revolves around Elemental Hero Neos for its fusions. You should be playing this inside of your Neo-Spacian deck because it is pretty good. Though it requires some setup, it is ultimately worth it in the end. Now, playing through Neos, now experimenting with Neos, with doing some research, with collecting my thoughts on this, I've actually come to a few conclusions in terms of things that I like about the Neo-Spacian archetype. Neo-Spacians for me are pretty nostalgic. I love the designs of all the cards, they're all really creative and a lot of fun. They invoke a lot of the Saturday morning cartoon feeling, similar to watching Yu-Gi-Oh! GX when I was a kid. I love the looks and the feel and the overall grand, larger than life plays that you can make with these cards. The explosiveness can be pretty good sometimes, however somewhat inconsistent, and the addition of Elemental Hero support definitely makes the deck a little more playable. Neos Knights still kind of sucks, but I do like how it's the only one that doesn't shuffle spell back into the extra deck, and that's a-okay with me. But I don't know, maybe that's just me. What do you guys think of it? What do you guys think of Neo-Spacians down in the comments down below? Do you guys like them? Do you guys hate them? What do you guys think of the new support? What do you guys think of the new support coming out a little bit later? Do you want Konami to fix this archetype, or do you think it's a-okay? Let me know in the comments section down below. And if you guys liked the video, make sure to leave a like. If you want to see more, please subscribe. Got a lot more videos coming in the pipeline, so stay tuned for that if you want to. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. Peace out. Oh, and on a side note, if you catch me streaming or if you see me online, make sure to come on and say hi. I always really enjoy when you guys come hang out in the live streams and chat with me. In addition to that, if you guys want to check out when I'm going to be live streaming, you can follow me on Twitter at Swolelax. There will be links in the description down below. And I usually, tweet out memes, my feelings, thoughts on things, generally just things that are going on and happening. And I also, most importantly, tweet out when I will be streaming. So you can see exactly when I go live there. But yeah, that's really all I gotta say. Peace out.